So last week at NSAA West, I was moderating a panel about communicating in times of distress, and a question came to mind that I posed to the panel that I hadn't planned for, but I've been thinking about a lot since. And the question was, where are we in this sort of evolution of transparency, right? I don't know, 5-10 years ago, we were really guarded about the things we said about incidents or challenges or whatever. And we're much more open now than we were. I mean, that was the theme that came out during the panel. We just have to be very forthcoming when there are challenges or issues on the mountain. But I wanted to kind of explore this idea of, where are we? Have we peaked? Is this as transparent as we were going to be with skiers, or are we still on this upslope, still exploring the limits of this? And the panel had some great answers, and this is, from the hip, I kind of surprised them with this question. But since then, I've thought a lot about it, and I want to talk about 3 things that I think will happen in this space, because I don't think we're at the peak. In fact, I don't think we're that close to the peak. I think we have a lot of room to explore and things to try that we haven't yet done. The first one came up yesterday. So yesterday I shared a list of all the letters that GMs are writing in response to parking or weather or whatever that's happening at the resorts. And Alex Kaufman made a really great point. I'd written something similar down, but he said it in much better words. He said that there's a difference between a GM that's being reactive to situations and ones that are being proactive, right? It's easy to, something bad happens and you write a letter and you try to resolve the situation. It's another thing to say, we made a decision, or the weather's going to be X, and I just want you to know that it could be really bad skiing, or it could be a really bad experience this weekend, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's the first place we're going to see more transparency. It's not on the back end of events, but on the front end. The second one is more about the why than the what. Right now we really talk about the what. We talked about parking is terrible. Here's how we're going to fix parking. Or we're having a lot of crowding on the mountain or whatever. Here's what we're going to do to address that. But resorts really don't talk about the why. We don't talk about, well, is it because of the Icon Pass? Is it not? People are left guessing for the most part. Is it because of the Epic Pass? Is it not? Those decisions were made for a reason. And we got a little peek behind the curtain with Win Smith's letter when Sugarbush was acquired. But I think there's going to be more exploration there, where resorts are just going to try to be more forthcoming about the strategy, the decisions that led to the situation, the why, not just the what, whether it be parking or financial decisions or partnerships or passes or whatever. The reason I believe this is not just because I think it's an interesting idea, but because it already exists in other industries. So obviously a lot of my time is spent in the software world, software as a service, SaaS. And in that industry, there are pockets where slope fillers, something like a slope fillers would be almost irrelevant, because the companies are so transparent about everything from financials to their marketing to the way they hire, to the way they pay people. I don't think we're ever going to get to that level of transparency. But there is absolutely value in understanding and having a company tell their side of the story about, look, this is this financial situation we were in, and that's why we had to make this decision. It wasn't easy, but that context of just being transparent around the economics help people understand and not just be confused or invent their own version of the story. So I think that's another thing we're going to see. If I had to be very specific, not as kind of being vague with these ideas, but very specific, I think that we're going to see a lot more resorts blogging, resort GMs, I should say, blogging like Al does at Arapahoe Basin or Kelly did at Mount Snow. There are pockets of these, but I think we're going to see more GMs being very proactive and building a relationship with the guests in a way that they haven't done before, and bringing that transparency to the front end of the decisions that they make, explaining the decisions before the effects or the consequences are visible or apparent or impact the skier's experience. And I think more specifically, I think that there's going to be a lot of transparency around financials. Not the whole thing, but just certain situations. the financial or the economic importance of a partnership with an Icon or an Epic Pass, or even something as simple as the cost of snowmaking. I mean, I don't understand it on a level that most GMs do, but when I talk to people about snowmaking, they don't. Their estimate of how much snowmaking costs is off by a factor of 10. It's nowhere near the actual cost. I think there's an opportunity there, snowmaking, lifts, whatever, to just be open and help people understand that if they want to have a high-speed quad and that experience, that costs $5 million. And here's the trickle-down effect, and this is how we balance everything out. We don't have to go the full 9 yards and show everything, but I really believe that that's going to come for resorts and maybe nonprofits in particular, where they do have maybe a little bit more of a tricky or public balancing act to strike, will be very forthcoming with their financials. So are we at the peak of transparency? I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think a lot will change in the next few years that might bring us closer to it. So that's all for this week. I'll see you next week with another video. Click on the recommended videos here, or I think I might have a subscribe link this time, one of these places. Click on that, and I will see you next time.